It is human nature to be comfortable in a place where we've already fought to get to. And sometimes the fight to getting to a comfortable place can be tiresome. So this is why people dream to be millionaires, but they're comfortable with being thousandaires. Because the millionaire requires deeper scars. We must not be saddened by the storms. So one of the things I learned is Seattle, Washington, is a state that has one of the nation's highest suicide rates. Right? And they're always at the top because it rains so much. And so I realized, Jose, in thinking about that while rain can be relaxing, too much of it can be saddening. Right? But last week we talked about being planted and not buried. One of the key essentials to being planted is water. There's even a study that came out that said human beings could actually survive off drinking rainwater. Blew my mind. I did not know that. So what that tells us is the storm can actually shape us more than it should sadden us. All right, I'm gonna dig in that, but I need us to anchor to that right quick. Right? And so what we gotta also realize is the rain is so essential, not just for the moment, it is actually essential, watch this, Jose, in perpetuity. Okay, like I'm setting the tone right here because I need us to understand the foundation of where we're going at, right? And what I mean by in perpetuity is it is not just essential for now, it is essential forever. And every time we go through history, Jose, I realize something that after every great storm or every great flood comes a flourishing. After every great storm or every great flood, there comes a flourishing. Oh man, I'm setting this groundwork and y'all don't even see it. Y'all don't even see it, right? The people who panic in the storm never get the opportunity to understand the significance of it. All right, now we about to go to another level of this. I'm about to take us to another part. Watch me here. During the storm, the seed has to store some water. During the storm, the soil has to store some water. Which means that when the storm passes, the water is then the most essential thing that you need. All right. Watch me. So in a famine, what people miss is not just the lack of food. It's the lack of nourishment that comes from water that gives everything else essence. We're gonna work it slow. Because I need us to understand, while so many of us are complaining about the storm, there's some of us that are saying, bring it on. Right? There's some of us that look at the storm and say, there's so much opportunity here because I can visualize what comes after. So, well, I want us to say this to ourselves. Moving forward, I will consolidate the chaos. Meaning, when the chaos is all over, because I'm a firm believer in everybody when you say it rains, it pours. Right? Like when one thing happens, it becomes a domino effect of everything happening. And it's not about the things happening that changes us. It's what do we do when they happen that changes us. Because what we do when it happens defines who we are. And a lot of times we get lost in the thing, so we never discover who we are. Come on, man. Oh, my God. Okay, watch this. More data right here. There are actually mountains in this world that have watermarks from a great flood. This is crazy. Okay, let me say this again. There are actually mountains in this world that have been carved that has left residue from great floods. Which means to me that in order to survive a travesty, it leaves scars. And one of the ways that we determine someone's resiliency is by looking at their scars. Oh my God. Oh my God. So when you look at me or when I look at you, a lot of times, wait, let me back up a little bit, Jose. I am 100% guilty of saying one of my biggest flaws is that I look at people and determine who they are and if I can communicate them by their scars. I'm going to be first to say that. Like, the first thing I have this as a bad habit. Guys, you got to still work on me because I tend to judge people based on their scars. Because I look at myself and I always reflect on my scars to keep in mind how far I come, but also to make sure I got room for the ones where I'm gonna leave. They missed out. They missed out. They missed out. Okay, let me say it again. Sometimes I look at my scars to remind me of how far I came, but to also make room to see if I got room for the scars that's coming for where I'm going. All right. That's an inclination in my heart to tell me you cannot be comfortable in a place you've never been. So to get where you gotta go, you gotta have room for the scars. Okay, we setting the tone here. We setting the tone here. Now we gonna dig deeper. It becomes hard for people to build wealth because they are afraid of new scars. The new scars mean you gotta get burnt in a place that you are unfamiliar. And in essence, it is not human nature to be comfortable in the unfamiliar. It is human nature to be comfortable in a place that we've already resided in. Okay. It is human nature to be comfortable in a place where we've already fought to get to. And sometimes the fight to getting to a comfortable place can be tiresome. So this is why people dream to be millionaires, but they're comfortable with being thousandaires. Because the millionaire requires deeper scars. And in order to be ready for deeper scars, you gotta consolidate the chaos. That means you gotta look at everything going wrong and still say, I know where I'm going. That means you gotta look at the losses and say, just the tuition for where I gotta go at. That means you gotta look at the L's. You gotta look at the setbacks like tuition. You got to look at everything going wrong. You got to look at all the mistakes like this is supposed to happen. You got to be bold enough to say, why not me instead of why me? You got to consolidate the chaos instead of running from it. Okay. Okay, watch me here. There's a point in our lives. There's a point in our lives where we have to look at the future and say, this is what I was destined to be. There's a point in our lives where we got to disregard everything around us and say, this is just the prerequisite for what my alignment is. So the key word in that, Jose, is alignment. Now watch this. The thing about alignment is you got to pull on yourself in uncomfortable ways in order to get in alignment. So when you drive your car and you know how you know it's out of line, you take your hands off the wheel and it starts to go one way or another. Now the thing about that is, Jose, you can actually keep driving the car out of alignment. But the thing about driving it while it's not in alignment, the longer you drive it while it's not in alignment, it starts to affect the other things on the vehicle. So then the brakes start going off, and then the tie rods start moving over a little bit. Then the axis can shift a little bit, and then things start going wrong with the engine for no reason. So what happens is the longer that you are out of alignment, the longer it will take you to get to the destination. Now you are opening the door for other things to go wrong. So to get in alignment, you got to make the hard decision to put things where they belong at, not where they're comfortable at. That's it. So watch this. So the comfort is actually not in alignment. The comfort zone is actually putting you further away from where you got to be at than it is closer. You keep trying to get in a comfortable place when where you need to be at is the uncomfortable place, because the uncomfortable place keep making you work. Okay, let me self-reflect for a second. Let me self-reflect for a second, because that's the thing that people can relate to the most, right? Because I don't want to talk to you in theory. I want to talk to you in practicality, right? We like practicality here. Watch this. In order to make $1 million play in the market, I had to get comfortable with putting $400,000 in there. Woo. Okay. So before I was able to do that, my biggest play was $100,000. And I said, dang, that's a lot of money right there. $100,000 in a play. God, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. All right? I'm not going to be one of these people that feel like, man, $100,000 ain't a lot of money. No, that ain't me. $100,000 is a lot of god doggone money. So I said, all right, Trav, like, we can do this. The formula didn't change. It was my emotional capacity that needed to be stretched. So everybody here, what I need you to understand is the formula doesn't change. The emotional and mental capacity is what got to get stretched. Okay. Now, you can talk about that as much as you want, but until you get stretched, you don't know what it feels like. Okay. Okay. We're gonna do something right here, Jose. Watch me here. But the first time I put the 100,000 in, I lost 40% of it. The first time I put the 100,000 in, I lost 40% of it. $40 of it. First time I did it. And I had to ask myself, am I comfortable with here? And the first thing my brain said was, bro, you don't even have to do that. You all right. I was comfortable with not putting 100 grand in a play. I was comfortable right there. Like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to put 100 grand. Why do you even want to put 100 grand in a play? But I remember I told my people something that was so powerful. In order to make $1 million, you got to be willing to lose 100. I said, okay. So watch this. I waited for another opportunity because here's the thing I learned, Jose. The world does not lack opportunities. The market does not lack opportunity. You just lack the mental capacity. Okay. And you get where you need to go at by consolidating the chaos. Why you keep saying that, Chap? Because once I lost the 40,000 of the 100,000 and I had 60,000 left, they had a whole bunch of chaos going on in my head and a whole bunch of chaos going on in my emotion. And I had to consolidate that to say, the only way I get to the million is I must move past it. Yeah, I had to move past it. I had to move past it. And moving past it doesn't mean change the formula. Moving past it means increasing the mental capacity. So I made the decision to say, hey, Chap, step back. The opportunity will present itself. Watch this. If you aren't blinded by the emotion. Okay, so emotion now plays the enemy and the hero. Man, this is so good, bro. The emotion plays the enemy and the hero because the emotion says don't do it, but the emotion also says if you do it, here's where we going. So how do you navigate the gray? You got to be willing to make decisions with speed. Oh my God, this is a masterclass. I don't think they get it. All right, let me see if I can drive that a little bit better. Okay, watch this. In order to get where we want to go in life, in order to be the person that changes our last name to an asset, in order to be able to say, I want to be a millionaire, we got to have some mental SOPs that we can always go back and relate to. Okay, that's it. So when you say something, when you say, I am capable of operating this machine, one, that's a mental SOP. Two, we got to look and say, what are the instructions to operating the machine? Three, then we got to say, what does it take for us to pull the lever? So that's why I say it's more important for us to be able to execute than it is for us to be right. Oh, man, this is so good. And I'm not just saying this for myself. I'm saying because what we're doing is we are giving you practical steps on how to do what you need to do to get where you need to go at. Okay, so watch me. Then the market presents me with an opportunity. And when the market presents me with the opportunity, I got the cash on the side. Now here's the dope part about opportunity. You only have a small window to take full advantage of it. We only have a small amount of window to take advantage of a life-changing opportunity. Okay, so the market does what it does. The stock goes in rare form. I have the ability. The money's sitting on the side. I look at it and I say, this is the one. The formula didn't change, but the mental capacity grew. The emotional capacity grew. So when the window changed, when the window presented itself, I was able to do what, Jose? Execute. I pressed the button. Boom. Not with emotion. Not with revenge. But with logic. But more powerful with a new mind. So I pressed the button. And immediately my heart started racing. Because watch this, y'all. Watch this. The residue from the trauma of when I lost the time before that presented itself. And immediately I wanted to say, hey, just sell it right here. Get your money back. Nobody not going to ever know. But the problem was with nobody ever knowing is the outside world may never know, but you going to know internally. And the one thing that will kill you in this game, and I'm not just talking about stocks here, I'm talking about life, is the mental conversation that you have with yourself. You have 3 conversations, yo. You have the conversation with God, you have the conversation with people, and you have the conversation with yourself. And I promise you, one of them don't matter at all. 2 of them are the most important. The one you have with people does not matter. The one you have with God and the one you have with yourself are essential. Oh my God. Let me slow that one down, because I know you missed it. You ain't get it. The one you have with God is because you professing your thoughts. But the one you have with yourself is what beliefs are born. Okay, I'm going to say it again. You missed it. The one you have with God is what you profess. This is what you think. This is what you fear. This is what you're asking for. This is what you hope he does for you. But the one you have with yourself, see, these are internal conversations where beliefs are born. The one you have with yourself is when you're telling yourself things about yourself. And when you tell yourself things about yourself and then you answer yourself with those things, you start doing what's called, you start building neurological pathways. Okay, and this is how beliefs are born. This is how thoughts are created. And this is how you start to operate. So if you tell yourself, I am more than capable of operating this machine, and you tell yourself that every day, that's not a conversation to the world. That's a conversation with yourself. And if you tell yourself, I want to be a millionaire every day, and you switch that to, I'm going to be a millionaire every day, and this is how I'll be a millionaire every day, that's a conversation you're having with yourself that start now building a neurological pathway. And what happens with your brain is, and your spirit is, they start to connect, and they start to tell you, this is how we going to do it. So we got to consolidate the chaos so that we can start communicating with ourselves in a way that's in alignment with our dreams. Come on, man, we bring that home. We bring that home. The conversation that you having with yourself not conducive with what you telling other people. That's why I told you the one that you tell people don't even matter, because you only telling them what you want them to believe and not what you really believe. I can tell anybody I want to be a millionaire, then they say, how you going to do it? You be like, I don't really know. I can tell anybody I'm going to change my last name to an asset, and they say, how you going to do it? You say, I don't really know. But what's the conversation that you having with yourself? That's how you consolidate the chaos. The one you have with yourself when the world is quiet, when you're in the bed, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you can't go to sleep. That's it. That's it. What is that conversation? When you driving in your car and the music not on. That's the conversation. When you close the app, when you close the TikTok, when you close the Instagram, when you close the Zoom call, what's the conversation when you leave the church, when oh my God, man, when you leave the masjid, yo, when you finish fasting, what's the conversation you have after that? What's that conversation like? Because that's the conversation that tells me what you really feel.